Okay, guys. Hey, welcome back. I'm sensing a lot of you guys are watching these, but not everybody. And of course, if you're not watching it, then you're not watching now. But we got to just keep moving along the best we can. And today, what we're going to do is we're going to pre-lab a lab that we're going to do next week. And so it won't be a super long lesson, but you'll just be more ready to go when this comes. So you can look on the calendar. You can see the schedule. Tuesday, you have an assignment. We're going to have our last quiz in chapter 2. We're going to start. We actually have a pretty fun demo. We'll do Tuesday, Wednesday. And then we're going to start this lab. And then and I'll give you a review packet. That'll be due on the day of your first test. And for A cohort, that will be Monday, September 14th. And for B cohort, that will be Tuesday, September 15th. It's a kind of a short test, and it won't be one that won't be too bad. Okay, joke time. What do you call a fly without wings? A walk. Think about it. It's a walk. How do you find King Arthur in the dark? With a night light. With a night light. So hopefully that'll get you through the weekend. Okay, so what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to be pre-labbing this lab right here. So make sure you write your name. We'll do this. We'll work on this next week. We're going to say this is going to be due on Monday the 14th, Tuesday the 15th. There's a chance I could give you an extension. This lab doesn't take a super long time to do. It's a measurement thing, but it does take a while to do the write-out. So the purpose in the lab, so this is the thickness density lab. And the purpose, there's two purposes. I'm just reading right here, which is on Canvas. It's on my website, and I gave you this. Okay, so purpose number one is to determine the thickness of 3 aluminum sheets. And so we're going to figure out how thick this is. So how thick this is. One is going to be aluminum foil, and it's impossible to measure it. So we're going to go through a calculation in how to do that. So we're going to find the thickness of this, then this piece of an aluminum, which we'll call the rectangle, and then this piece of aluminum, which is called the square. So the first objective is to figure out the thickness of the square, of the rectangle, of the foil, the rectangle, and the square. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing in the lab, it says, is to determine the identity of an unknown metal. And so for that, this is the unknown metal. And what we're going to do is we're going to figure out the identity by finding the density. So we're going to go through it. I'll talk about it briefly today, and then I'll talk about it again next week. But you're going to find the density, and because density is a physical or characteristic property, it can be used to identify something. It always has the same numerical value. So if you look on number 5, this metal is going to be one of those. So when you make your hypothesis, which you can make now or you can make when you're doing the lab, the unknown metal is blank, I'll tell you it will be one of those. And if you want to wait until you do your measurements, either way works for me. Okay, where it says background. Now this is going to be the first lab that we're going to do using our calculator and calculations. And I told you on labs, this is the one place where I'm going to be really picky. And so like on the Alka-Seltzer lab, when an explanation was required, I need not just a one-word answer, yes or no, but I need an explanation as to the idea behind it, a sentence. And here in this lab, we're going to be doing calculations. And when you do calculations on your labs, you've got to show your work, and you need to label with the right unit and watch your sig figs. And the labs are where I really get picky on that. Okay, so we talked about the purpose. There are some formulas. So I want to do pre-lab questions 1, 2, and 3 with you to kind of get you going on how these work. And so what I am looking for in this. So this is the way I want you guys to do this. You guys can copy right along with what I'm doing. So pre-lab question 1. So where I'm reading from is pre-lab question 1. So I'm right there. It says, what is the volume? And they give us the length, the width, and the height. So if we have a regular shaped object, so the way I'm doing it is the way I want you to do this from now on when we're doing calculations. So volume is length times width times height. So the length is 8.20 centimeters. And I want you showing your work. And if you don't show your work, you're going to lose points. The width, it says, is 2.25 centimeters. And the height is 1.00 centimeters. And I've already started doing this, but I'm telling you that the units, I always worry about those more than the numbers, because the units tell me if I'm right here. So centimeters times centimeters times centimeters gives me centimeters cubed. Okay, so then when I do this on my calculator, I have 8.20 times 2.25 times 1, and it says 18.45. But my sig figs aren't right there, because this has 3 sig figs, this has 3 sig figs, this has 3 sig figs, this has 4. So the way I would record that, so 1, 2, this is where I want to round, and the 5 tells me to round up. So my answer on number 1 is 18.5 cubic centimeters. That's the way I want you guys to do your work on labs. Show your work, be clear about it. Okay, number 2, and this goes to what we were talking about actually in our last class. If the density of a substance, so we're given the density and the volume, what is the mass? So remember the triangles. So we have mass, we have density and volume. So if we're trying to solve for the mass is, cover up the M, it's density times volume. So number 2, so mass is density, whoops, I was writing that wrong. It's density times volume. Density times volume. So the density is given to me as 0.525 grams per cc. A cc means the same thing as a cubic centimeter, which means the same thing as a milliliter. Those are all equivalent. Okay, and then the volume is 18.25 cc's. So again, I'm going to talk to you about the units. So what unit cancels out here? Well, what cancels out are cc's, and I'm left in grams. Okay, so watch your sig figs there. So if I have 0.525 times 18.25, my calculator says this. It says 9.58125. Well, that is 6 sig figs. I want 3 sig figs and 4. Remember, we go with the number with the fewest sig figs. So I'd have 9.58 grams. Okay, and then number 3, pre-lab question number 3 says, and this is only on this lab are we going to be finding thickness. It says a piece of paper is known to have an area of 30.2 centimeters squared and a volume of 5.2 times 10 to the negative third cc's. What is the thickness? And if you look up here, and again, only on this lab, not on the test, but right here I tell you the thickness is equal to volume over area. And again, just like I'm saying, when you guys are doing calculations in your labs, you need to clearly show me your work here. So the volume on this problem is 5.2 times 10 to the negative third cc, which means the same thing as cm cubed, which really means cm times cm times cm, cubic centimeters. I'll show you how the units work here. And the volume, I'm sorry, the area is 30.2 centimeters squared, which means centimeters times centimeters. So again, the units are, I always kind of come back to the units. So centimeters cancel, and I'm left in centimeters. So I'll let you do the calculation, but I'll tell you, this has 2 sig figs, this has 3 sig figs. So our final answer should have 2 sig figs. And the unit on this would be in centimeters. So I'll let you guys finish that. Okay, the other thing I wanted to show you guys is the data table. So I'm going to go over here. So just get this up again. And this you guys can write down. Okay, so I'm going back to my overhead. Okay, so let me just talk about this here for a second. So in the unit or the way we're going to label this. So this is now where I am. Is I'm now on the back. So here's my handout. So now I am on the back of the first page. So now I'm back here. And we're just going to get this set up so we're ready to go on Tuesday, Wednesday. So this is going to be the foil that I talked about earlier. So this is going to be the foil. Okay, this is going to be the square, and this is going to be the rectangle. So you can say foil, square, rectangle. And just like I have here, you might want to write yourself notes, sig figs, and I'll talk about that, and then I'll show you where the balance is in the room, and you can go back and there's two balances, and you're going to measure to the 100th, right? Digitally, it'll show that. Okay, and then here, this is where we're going to do the cylinder. So that is where we're going to do this. Okay, so you're going to weigh it again on the balance, and then this is the volume in the water. The volume of the water in the cylinder. So this is just the water. I'm sorry, this is just the water. This is when you add the cylinder to the water. So really you're going to get this reading first, and then you're going to come back and get this one. And then to find the volume of the cylinder, this is water displacement. So you'll just subtract those. Okay, and then finally down here, this is a calculation table that we will work on. We'll work on again starting on next week, and again we're going to plan on this being due Monday, Tuesday, the 14th, 15th. But again, the foil, the square, the rectangle, just like it was up above. You might want to write yourself a note. Area is length times width, which you have above. The density is going to be the triangle, so it's going to be mass over density. The density is 2.70. And the thickness is going to be volume of over the area. And notice what I've said here. Show your working formula on the first row. So in the boxes or down here, the first row, which means the square and the rectangle, you can just write in the numbers. You don't need to show your work, but you do for the foil. Okay, final thing. I told you this was not going to be too long. The final thing is just a reminder of your guys' assignment, which is due the next time I see you guys, which is Tuesday, Wednesday. So you can see it right there. So you got that worksheet on temperature, density, and those textbook problems. So, okay, guys, have a good weekend. Be doing your chemistry. I will see you next week.